Tua Tagovailoa is someone who had the drive and ambition that was just different ever since a young age and knew what his passion was. But even throughout tragedy in his family, along when it seemed as though he couldn't catch a break, he's always managed to stay in good spirits and upright, but also was always able to get behind the right set of mentors and guys that really played a part into where he is today. This is the Tua Tagovailoa story. Tua Tagovailoa was born on March 2nd, 1998 in Ewa Beach, Hawaii. Now, football actually did run in the family because his dad played junior college, but had to go back to Hawaii to support the family. As Tua grew up during his younger years, he was naturally right-handed, but he could not throw the football. But by first grade, his father decided to make the decision to change his throwing hand from his right to his left. And ever since then, Tua has been throwing left-handed and does everything else with his right hand. And as he continued to grow and develop as a kid, his love and determination for the game would continue to grow, so much to whereas his parents even found him sleeping with the football. But just by the age of 8 years old, he completely dominated on the field during Pop Warner and was even able to throw the ball 30 yards, while most of the younger kids his age could only throw the ball 10 yards. And as Tua really became a football fan, a very large inspiration to him was his grandfather Sue, who was a very well respected person around the area and was even referred to as Chief. He was always one of Tua's biggest supporters and believed in him, so much so to where he told Tua that if you want to take this game serious, then you need to report to me after every single game. So with Tua having his grandfather in his corner, it really helped Tua develop a certain type of skill set and confidence. But in the summer of 2014, his grandfather did pass away, which really took a toll on Tua. There was even a point to where he was going to completely give up football altogether, but that led him to have a conversation with his father, and he explained to him, telling him to honor your grandfather by continuing to play high school football. And as he continued to develop and mature in the game of football, he found another mentor in former Heisman Trophy winner Marcus Mariota. And throughout his high school career, while at the St. Louis school, he broke the passing record for quarterbacks, being able to pass for over 8,000 yards, and even managed to have 84 passing touchdowns to go along with 1,027 rushing yards and 24 rushing touchdowns. So by now, he was a 5-star recruit while being rated the #1 quarterback in the nation, which had offers coming in left and right from big time schools all across the country. After he took an official visit to USC, he really became intrigued and really saw himself playing there. But that was until one school would hit him up, and that was the University of Alabama. So when Tua and his family went to visit Alabama, his mother told him straight up that you're not coming all the way over here that far away from home. But after visiting the school, Tua and his family just fell in love with everything about it. But a big part of Tua being able to play for Coach Nick Saban was that his mom really felt comfortable and really trusted the coaching staff, and knew that he was going to thrive while having the opportunity to really develop not just on the field but as a man. So in his very first game in his college debut versus Fresno State, he threw a touchdown pass to go along with 64 yards. But with him playing behind Jalen Hurts, he really didn't see a lot of field time. But when he did play, truthfully, he really did his thing. He managed to get over 600 yards and 11 touchdowns during his freshman season. And although that wasn't anything crazy, he showed up big when it really counted. And this was versus Georgia in the national championship game. Because after getting the keys to the starting QB position after halftime, he winded up throwing for 166 yards and 3 touchdowns. But he really sealed the deal in overtime, throwing the game-winning pass to Devontae Smith. He became the first ever Samoan quarterback to win the national championship. Now going into his sophomore season at Alabama with him solidifying the starting QB position, he was arguably one of the best quarterbacks in college football. He had an FBS record of 199.4 pass rating for his sophomore season, but towards the end of the season versus Georgia in the SEC championship game, Tua went down with an ankle injury in which he had to get surgery on it. Now his team did end up winning the game, led by Jalen Hurts, but did end up losing to Clemson in the national championship game. But as Tua came back from injury, there was a pattern starting to form when it came to injuries. Now he was able to have a ridiculous over 2,800 yards and 33 touchdowns through 9 games for his junior year. But he would have another ankle injury versus Tennessee. He came back from that injury, but just only a couple games later, he had the very gruesome hip injury versus Mississippi State. And by this time, there were a lot of worries about him based on the fact that he was getting injured very frequently. Doctors were saying that it might even take up to a year for him to recover. And that was very unfortunate because he was a great leader and seemed to be doing things the right way. But despite all that, he was still a first round top 5 draft pick lock, which led him to enter the 2020 NFL draft. And he would go 5th overall to the Miami Dolphins. But even with him signing a $30 million deal with the Dolphins, he still went into the season as a backup to Ryan Fitzpatrick. But Tua didn't see a whole lot of field time until week 6, and this was against the Jets, where he threw 2 passes for 9 yards. But after that game, Tua was named the starter going into the following week versus the Rams. And after having a couple ups and downs during that game, he would go on to throw a touchdown pass to help win the game. The next couple of weeks were up and down. He still managed to help lead his team to a 6-3 record, but they did fall just short of making the playoffs. He ended his rookie campaign being able to pass for over 1,800 yards and 11 touchdowns. And although he didn't have the very best year statistically, when watching him play, you just saw the growth and potential throughout his rookie season. So going into the 21-22 season, it just seemed as though that he was going to keep developing more and more. But there was a lot of questioning and wondering going into his second year. In the season opener against the Patriots, Tua struggled and didn't perform as well, with him only having 100 yards and a touchdown, but still managed to get the win. Now things would go south a bit as Tua suffered a rib injury the very next game against Buffalo, which did have him out for a whole month. And as he returned, he would go on to have a pretty solid rest of the season, but his team still managed to miss the playoffs with a 9-8 record. But now going into the 21-22 off season, the organization as a whole took initiative to really build around Tua by hiring good assets like former OC of the 49ers, Mike McDaniels. They even made some more big moves like picking up one of the best linemen in the league, Terran Armstead. They also signed one of the best wideouts in the game, Tyreek Hill, along with Sony Michel, to really give Tua that surrounding cast he needs in order for this team to go places. So with him entering the 22-23 season, by just his second week, he was leading the NFL in yards, total touchdowns. He was second in QBR. But as the Dolphins managed to beat the Bills in week 3, in that game, Tua went down and hit his head hard and showed clear signs of a concussion. He shook his head while he was on the ground, then he got up and stumbled again. But despite that, the Dolphins said he cleared concussion protocol. Fast forward the very next week versus the Bengals, Tua went down again, hitting his head, and was later diagnosed with a concussion, which led the NFLPA to investigate into how the Dolphins handled the whole situation. The NFLPA even fired the independent doctor who cleared Tua to play versus the Bills. But despite all the chaos that's going around the NFL and even the organization, Tua Tagovailoa, and throughout all of his tough times from a kid all the way up to an adult, really took everything that his parents instilled in him and has always stayed level-headed and grateful for the success and the position that he's been blessed to be in today.
I mean, all glory goes to God. You know, I can't describe what He's done for me and my family. You know, who would have ever thought I would have been here? You know, right now.
And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Tua Tagovailoa story.